let me just jump into this. So quickly, in the last couple of years, we have had many reports of malware attacks in Jamaica, whether just regular ransomware or virus, the old-time virus situation is still upon us, or just generally banking Trojans that they regard as crimeware, right? And we have seen significant loss, both in local currency and US dollars, right? We have seen where accounts were completely taken over, people lose money, credit cards flag out, like zeroed out. And it's really just because persons are not aware and they're not switched on. So we're coming from the era of phishing scams. Persons generally receive phishing scams by way of through the Nigerian kind of scamming that they want money and all that kind of thing. Now, in recent times, we have seen blended approaches. Persons no longer send you that kind of regular email about people losing money. They want to lure you into downloading. They want to lure you into downloading an attachment, and it looks innocuous. So say for instance, this one that you have on screen, you receive a simple email like this telling you some stuff. It wants you to go to a site, right? Now, the vector of a malware can be through many different media. So it can be through just downloading an attachment and executing the attachment. The attachment can be way of a document, like a Microsoft Office document that will subsequently execute a macro virus, right? Generally referred to these days as fileless malware. Or you can also be lured to a site, and by visiting the site, you are the victim of a drive-by download, right? So you don't have to do anything at all. The threat actors will just exploit weaknesses in your browser. You download attachments without your knowledge, and you become infected. You become infected, a backdoor is downloaded on your machine, and then the threat actors will be able to move laterally on your network if you're in the workplace, or take over your machine, install persistence, and in essence, they have full control of the machine as if they were sitting around. All right, so this is just an example of some of the phishing emails, non-exhaustive list. You might see another one looking like this, albeit the threat actor can clone any site and lure you to it. They can even use farming techniques, which can significantly affect your router and lure you, force you into going to that website, right? So these are just some examples. Regular attachment. We have seen these at MOCA a lot. We have investigated many of these breaches, and we have seen where persons have lost significant money. How do we treat with these kinds of investigation? All right, so today we want to talk about Zeus. Zeus is one of the greatest crimeware of all times. I don't know if persons in the audience are aware of Zeus. It's adapted from the Greek mythology, that god, and as the name implies, it's mighty, claimed millions of dollars around the world, even in Jamaica here. I think the last time a gentleman lost like about 120,000 US, like in a second. You get me? So it's not like fictitious or mythological as the name implies, like the Zeus itself. All right, so quickly, the Zeus, it still login passwords. It does key login. So it will log as you type on your keyboard, it will log whatever you do, encrypt all of that information and send it to the threat actors, right? That are situated in what they call a command and control server, or a C2. It will take your screenshots and send them up. It will steal browser information. Most of the times persons are guilty. They store information in their browser form information. Zeus has the ability, and other malware of similar type, to steal that information from your browser, encrypt it, and send it to the threat actor. All right. It can also, subsequent to the initial infection, install additional applications with like other backdoors, rootkits, and it will do all of these things for persistence. Persistence means that it wants to survive a reboot, right? And it will employ even blended measures or hybrid measures to survive the reboot. So Zeus will also infect your smartphone. So remove from your mind the conventional computer. Here, when I talk about infecting your computer, it will infect your computer, it will infect your smartphone, which of course, most of the smartphones that we are used to will be iOS or Android. They too are vulnerable, right? So let's just look at Zeus a bit more granularly. In the smartphone, Zeus is referred to as Zitmo, but for the PC, and I'm talking about Windows now, it's called Zeus. Started about 2007. By the time it reached 2010, it was wreaking havoc, and it was rivaled by another one called SpyEye. SpyEye is a similar sort of Trojan, too mighty malware. What happened is that if you are infected by Zeus, SpyEye, if you're infected by Zeus initially, a subsequent infection by SpyEye will uninstall Zeus, and SpyEye will do just about the same thing as Zeus can do. It has cost about over $100 million. And at the time, you know, $100 million 10, 12 years ago, that was a lot of money, right? And that is what persons could account for, because usually some persons do not report cybercrimes or cyber security events because they want to, you know, save reputational damage and all that kind of thing. All right, so I'm just run through this quickly. So these are just some of the general things, non-exhaustive list of what Zeus does. Zeus today is still there. So even though Zeus started out 2007, it's still a significant malware or a crimeware, right? It is still operating in different jurisdictions, still stealing money. So you have to be aware, all right? Some of the vectors I said earlier: email, drive-by download, cracked software, downloading through torrents, and by physical insertion of a device in your computer, right? Once you become infected, Zeus will inject its processes or inject itself in legitimate processes, all right? So that process is called DLL injection, and we do that kind of investigation a lot, all right? It also has many other methodologies. It will install itself as a service. It will install itself as a task, a scheduled task, or just plug itself in your registry in order to survive a reboot, so that it's always going to be there. All right. Generally, it creates a whitelist. So once you're infected, it creates a whitelist. It looks for the sites that you visit, and once you start visiting what we call sites that you conduct transactions, e-commerce sites, it will steal your credentials, and it will steal your banking details, of course. The victim, the last victim that I'm talking about, was using his computer on a site making purchases. Computer froze. By the time he rebooted the computer, he lost 120,000 US by the time, and that is within minutes, right? So once they steal your credentials, it's important that the threat actor from the command and control center, what we call the C2 server, lock you out. Then use your credit card to make purchases. You might just get a statement that you just made a purchase in somewhere in Eastern Europe, right? And it is quite important. The last 2 years, Zeus became the malware of the month, just to show you that it's formidable, right? It's still wreaking a lot of money, and it is still active. So how we conduct this kind of analysis? RAM acquisition is our friend, right? As forensic analysts, we always will have to do an acquisition of memory, because everything traverses RAM, right? Sockets, and these are where you have a connection from a computer to an external machine or to a command and control server. You will have encrypted keys in RAM. You will have passwords. You'll have remnants of data that is of importance. Significant artifacts can always be found in RAM, right? and among other things that I have here on screen. So you can get this presentation if you wish. All right. So I'll just skip through some of the slides. You will also find log on user or active services, as well as whichever service spawns another service, right? So you'll find like a parent ID that is assigned to a service that initially started, and all of the children processes that are spawned from that service. And this is really how we look for malicious activity from a temporal analysis standpoint, right? So we look for kernel processes. This is kind of technical, maybe depending on the audience, I don't know, but I'll say them nevertheless. We look for processes that have come to an end, but are still resident in RAM. We will look for unlinked libraries, libraries that every time you have an application loading in RAM, it's called a process, right? It requires a certain amount of dynamic link libraries and other significant services to work, sockets, threads, which are smaller processes running. This behavior we look for where a process started, it no longer has a parent, right? And it becomes an orphan process, and then it's not doing anything. This is a red flag, right? We will look for hooked libraries where one process hook itself into legitimate processes. One thing to note before I get into the technicalities is that once you're affected by Zeus, every single application that was running or that is running at the time, Zeus will inject itself in these processes, every single application. So it means that even if you kill one application or service, Zeus is able to persist, right? And that's, and it encrypts itself, so you might not just find it because it has significant pointers in the services that it starts, that it is starting. All right, so these are anomalies that we look for. I'll just skip through some of these. So we also look for misspellings. It will use a 1 for an I. Many times you guys see it for persons who have conducted this kind of analysis. It will use Cyrillic characters to represent regular ASCII-based characters, and you will believe it to be a legitimate process because of the name. But the working directory that it is running from is user-based, so it's under a username rather than in a Windows System 32 kind of directory. So we look for these kind of things. These are anomalous, right? Most of the times, you might not find significant activity on disk from a malware. Matter of fact, the new type of malware that we're finding now are called fileless malware. And they have a term for it called LOL, which they refer to as living off the land. So you are infected by a malware, of course, through a macro exploit in a Word document. The malware runs only in RAM because it spawns a PowerShell script, disable your antivirus, disable your firewall, but it runs only in RAM. In the absence of a RAM dump, there is no way that you can get any artifacts that is of investigative interest, right? So I just want the audience to understand. I just want the audience to understand where we are in investigating these kind of modern cyber attacks, all right? We look also for, in our temporal analysis, the victim will say, my computer became non-responsive X time, or I think from my recollection that I might have downloaded something seemingly innocuous, but by the time they realize they are already a victim, right? So we try to do an interview. When is it that you notice this kind of thing? Because we will at least be able to find some form of artifacts from a temporal analysis, right? Or even close to the time of the attack, right? And I'll skip some of these things. I'll tell you about code injection. I'll show you that in a demo that we're about to do. So right now, I want to just share my screen on my I just want to share my screen over here. Let me just. Okay, can you all see my screen? Anyone?
Yes.
All right, nice. So for the purpose of this investigation, just to make it clear,
Okay.
Did somebody say something? Huh?
No, you can carry on, Sir Linton.
Oh, okay. So for the purpose of this investigation, I just want you to understand that we usually conduct two types of analysis around malware: a static analysis or a dynamic. A static is where we do a RAM dump, take it offline, and we go to our lab using most times the Linux environment where we don't have like a compromise, or you might not be able to even inadvertently, we won't be able to inadvertently execute the binary in our environment. So we most likely will use a Linux kind of setting. We also conduct dynamic analysis, which is we take the malicious application, launch it in a control environment, and look at its behavior, right? How it infects, the indicators of compromise, the different things that it does, and all that kind of thing, right? So a more modern kind of malware will look for the environment in which you load it, right? So it will try to detect if it is being launched in a virtual environment and it will not run, right? That's one thing. Another thing is that you might be infected with a malware and we do a RAM acquisition, attempt to do a RAM acquisition. The malware will look for sequential accessing of the RAM, and it knows that you are imaging the RAM, and it will carve itself out of memory, right? So these are things that you have to look for, right? It carves itself out of memory. You dump a RAM and you see nothing of investigative worth, right? So be aware the landscape in which you are working on. It is dynamic, right? And the threat actors are really, really smart. So this is a learning process for all of us as we go along and delve deeper into the new age kind of attacks. Now, I just want to just, jump over to my, for today, I'll be using Windows for this investigation. And I'll just show you quickly how I am able to use. Volatility is a framework that is used to investigate malicious activity in RAM, right? You can do extensive analysis with volatility. Today, though, I will not be taking you through the many steps of volatility because we require the entire day or week to really get granular. But I'll show you primarily how we extract the data quickly, some data of worth, to at least know the malicious binary that we're working with, to at least be able to extract any sockets, which will be IP addresses and that kind of thing. Because in the event we extract IP addresses, this is where we try to find out the CSP, communication service provider. If it is local, we can readily write or make a request to our service providers in Jamaica. If it requires international assistance, we will go through Interpol or law enforcement to law enforcement in order to find out, the bigger picture, the physical address that is mapped to this IP address of the perpetrator, right? So here I will just show you my demo. Sorry. Trying to find my demo. Where is it? Okay. All right, so here I have this application, if you're able to see it, called Zeus.vmm, and the vmm means it's it was memory from a virtual machine, right? And your virtual machine is where we executed the malware, look at its indicators of compromise and how it behaves and all that kind of nice thing, right? So here it's smaller. Usually RAM in a bigger environment, you might have 32 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of RAM. You might be extracting Zeus from a server, and it's going to be a whole lot of memory that you're working with, right? So luckily here, it's really 134 gigs, so it's really easy to parse the information that we request. So the first thing that I look for is to see the kind of operating system that I took Zeus from, right? And how I get this, I will just say vol.exe, which is my application. And in order to look for the file name, I will have to give a parameter to the volume, to the volatility, and it is -f, and then I refer to the name of the malware. So that's the malware. Sorry. And then I need to know what operating system I got this from. So the command is image info, because this is what I require to. So just bear with me a bit. It's a bit slow because it has to parse all of that RAM. You know that RAM is really like unallocated space. It's just a whole lot of junk put together of things that you have running as your computer starts, right? So just quickly to take you through this cryptic looking stuff. Here I use a kernel debugger in order to look at the possible profiles from which we extracted this RAM, right? And you'll notice that the test machines were Windows XP. It tells you that it's from Intel-based architecture. And you see IA32 here. You will see the path from which I am executing Zeus. You will see the directory table here, which is an offset and a kernel debugger. It tells the amount of processors that we're running in that machine, the service pack, the offset of the CPU information, and timestamp of acquisition, right? Very simple stuff at this point. Now, the next thing that I want to move you through is to look at the processes that were running at the time when the acquisition took place, right? Or at the time when the machine was being infected. So let's get to this. So we will do what they call a PS list, which is the process ID. So it's a process list. So as I say, a process is the application. So if you run Microsoft Word, in RAM, it will be a process and it has its own ID. Each process is spawned by a parent process, and the parent process has its parent's ID, parent ID, and a child process will also have an ID, right? This looks cryptic, but let me just explain quickly. All of these are processes running. Over here, you have a PPID, which is a parent process ID. And as you can see that the system, which is a process, spawns the SMS, because so this spawns this. SMS spawns this process, which is called 608, that's the process ID. WinLogon is 544. So CRSS spawns WinLogon, and WinLogon is very important in malware investigation, because as you come to your welcome screen, right, a threat actor can, for persistence, load the path to another malware after WinLogon. So as soon as you log into Windows, it automatically runs the process that follows WinLogon, right? Based on the parameters that you add there. So if you notice here, I'm just showing you briefly that everything over here spawns something over here. So if you notice that 322 spawns 688, and this process that is called 676, which is services, it has spawned all of these processes, right? Now, so let's run a process scan. Let's run a process scan. So the process scan shows you the offset of each process, right? It shows the process name, the offset of each process, the time the process was created, as also the time when the process executed. Some process did not execute, so they stay resident, right? Now, so I have my RAM and I was like, let me see all of the connections that were established at the time of infection. Why do we need these? So remember I said that the threat actor sits somewhere from a C2 server. Excuse me. Most times the person will be out of your network in a foreign country, sometimes behind a Tor network to maintain anonymity, but sometimes they will not be, right? Because they need a clear path for managing their machine, their Trojans. Now, look at this. We now need to say which computer or IP addresses were connected at the time of infection. And the command that we're going to run, and generally it's what we call a plugin. Volatility has many plugins. We'll not go into that today because we don't have a lot of time. But every time you see me run something, it's a plugin, like a pscan is a plugin. So now I'm going to run what we call a conscan, right? And a conscan means connection scan. What connections were active or established at the time of infection? So let's look at that. I hope you can all hear me. Can you all hear me, everybody?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
So let me copy out this information. So I've got some information. I'm going to copy this, and let's try and make meaning out of this information quickly. So let me just open a Word document so we can all see this. So open my Word document. So what we have here, guys, is this is an offset. This is an offset or where in RAM it is that I found this information. So this is not critical now. This is the IP address and port of the local machine. An IP address attached to a port is called a socket, right? Very important as we do our investigation. Now, nothing looks odd as yet. This is our remote IP with a socket, with a port. The port that is attached here is 80, which can only be spawned by a web browser. Port 80 is used for HTTP. Port 443 standardly is used for HTTPS, right? You can have non-standard port for HTTP. It can be 8080 or 88443 for HTTPS, depending on how the user sets up his or her machine, right? This here that we're seeing, these three numbers, is called the process ID, right? Significant. So it is saying that the application that is running at the time here was running from this machine, this local machine. It was connected to this external IP address with a strange looking port, and this machine had, and the process was 856. So we're going to investigate that in a while, right? But I'm just going to take you somewhere. So let's dump out this process, right? Hope you can see my screen. My screen is a bit cluttered. Can you see the bottom part of my screen? Anyone? So guys, let's dump out this process, because remember that we know the process ID as 856. So this is how we do this. We know our process ID, right? We know our RAM. We're going to use a plugin called malfind, which is malware finder. So malfind, and malfind takes a parameter called the -p, which shows what process we intend to load. So it's -p equal, we know our process ID. Remember, which process ID do we consider to be of value at this time? Anybody?
856.
856.
So I know you're not sleeping, right? So 856 is our process ID. What we intend to do now is to dump this process. Just for you to understand that if you're dumping this process on Windows, your antivirus is going to go off immediately, because it knows the MD5 hash value of this process, the SHA-1 value, the SHA-2 is the value of the process. The process is not dangerous because it is not executable. It's not in an executable form, right? It's going to dump it as an image of the process. but it is still the same amount of data, just the name is changed, right? So the command to dump all of this is dump, right? And when you dump this data, I can choose to put it at in a different directory, or I can put it in the directory that we sit, right? So we don't have to do a lot. So it's dump dir, and it will dump the process with that process ID. And all I need to do is to put a full stop, because I want to dump the process right here, right? You press enter. You should not get an error if all is well. So I have an ambiguous plugin name. Let me see what's the problem. I have an ambiguous plugin name, PID equal 856. Okay, sorry. So process ID, sorry. So process ID equal 856. All right, so quickly, a lot of things running. So we now know, even if we did not look back through the data, we know that the process ID with 856 is service host, right? And you're like, how can two service hosts be running in the same memory? Yes, you have two services, but one is running from system32 directory and one is running from a user directory under the person's profile. So that's why you'll see them together. So we can just scroll up and you will see that we have two service hosts, right? One with 856 and one with this different offsets, right? But they are not running from the same path, right? And this is an anomaly that were we to have time, we could investigate that down the road to see the different path and that kind of thing. But, you know, let me just jump right into this. So these are different offsets. This is an executable file because the signature says MZ. We know this. And down the road, we also dumped out another process that we now have in the directory. So we do a quick dir, and we realize that we just dumped out two processes, right? And with their offsets, their virtual offsets and their physical offsets, right? Let's now investigate the processes that we just dumped out. Remember that we're going to look at our IP address in a while. So quickly, we're going to look at virus total. So virus total is used by every single cybersecurity analyst in the world. Must use virus total. There are other services, but I think they have one of the largest databases on malicious applications, right? And you know that they store them based on URL. You can look for a file and identify it based on its signature, the file signature itself, or the MD5 hash, right? It's important that they have many different methodologies, because you have one malware might change its content, which changes the MD5 hash, right? So some malware are polymorphic, some are oligomorphic, some are metamorphic, right? And they rebuild themselves. So you can't use one thing to identify a malicious binary, right? So as you grow along, you learn the different things that you do. It's an emerging area, all right? Pretty dynamic. So let's now load our malware, or so let's say, we don't know if it's a malware as yet. We just dump something from RAM that spawns a foreign address, and we said, you know what, this is suspicious. So we're going to look at the one that is 152 kilobytes, right? So we load this one, red, right? What is this saying? So virus total has a large amount of malicious application scanning engines, right? And different scanning engines will identify your malicious binary, or your binary, let's say it now, as with a different name, right? So you look at this one, it says 55 vendors flag this as being malicious. We don't know what it is as yet. Let's look at this is. So detection says adware call it gen variant, RASI, different persons call it different things. These are some names that you might not know, but when you get here, you see something called ZBot, right? So Icarus call it ZBot. we know that ZBot is Zeus, and you'll go, some things call it even riskware. You know, this is, I don't know, some antivirus kind of really old fashioned. So you'll see ZBot. We know that ZBot is also a name for Zeus, and you see it as a Trojan over here. You see ZBot, you see ZBot, you see ZBot, many different names, right? We know this is Zeus, right? But let's say we did not know what that is. Let's look at VirusTotal for a bit more meaningful data. So we click on details here, and it right away, it gives the MD5 hash value of the binary. It gives the SHA-1 hash value. You know, this is 128-bit, this is 166-bit, 60-bit, and then you have the SHA-56. And you have many different hashing algorithms that are being used on the same binary, you know, so you can't go wrong. Then it tells the file creation date that this one was created 2008 because that's embedded in the file. The first submission of this malicious binary on VirusTotal was 2012, right? So right away, you know that person started out investigation of this malicious application 9 years ago. All right, it tells a bit more information here, right, on the different naming convention that the threat actors have used. Down the road, it will give you header information, entry point, which is the offset. This entry point offset is generally like maybe a decimal offset as to where in the application, having plugged itself or injected its malicious code into another application, where it is that it starts in that application, right? It gives some resource information about the binary over here. And it tells the virtual size, physical size, the entropy, which is how much compression it's using, to know that if by itself it is encrypted. Then it gives a bit more information. Over here, it shows the relation, it shows its behavior, right? All of these files are dropped into Windows 32 directory once you become a victim. So these are indicators of compromise. It will also tell you registry entries that were modified in order to survive or for persistence. And it tells a whole community, persons who have actually, you know, done investigation around this. Let's go back to looking a bit more at our malicious binary. All right, so here, remember at one point we copied an IP address. We don't know this IP address. We will not copy the port information. We'll just copy the IP address alone, right? We know that this is not a routable IP, the 176. The 192 is, of course, a routable IP and has its presence somewhere on the wider internet. So we'll open our browser. I will just do an whois on this. So I'll say whois.sc because I need to know who owns this IP or under what block of IP addresses this IP falls, so we can know which CSP to contact in order to find out which actor had this IP at that point in time, right? So we paste our IP address. And, you know, this is telling us that this was recently registered to a Czechoslovakia or Czech Republic CSP. However, so this is enough information. At the time, in 20 whatever, we wanted to find out information. This IP would not have fallen under Czech Republic. I can tell you specifically that Zeus was created by a malicious actor from Russia, right? And at that time, and of the times that I have investigated Zeus over the years, the IP address is pointed to Russia. Because it's considered malicious over the years, they reassign this IP address. So even though you're seeing something from Czech, albeit Eastern Europe, this is also an IP what was used for malicious application. And I have, for the most part, here at MOCA, we do significant investigation around malware. And a lot of these threat actors are from Russia, right? Remember that they can anonymize themselves, you know. But sometimes for the command and control to work properly, you have to have a clear line of communication, right? So right now we know that this IP address is from Eastern Europe, right? Let me see what else I need to get you. Yeah. So this IP is from Eastern. So we could now use Interpol or police to police, law enforcement to law enforcement, I should say, in order to identify the perpetrator, right? I don't have a lot of time because I would really love to get really granular with this investigation. This investigation, in order, you know, it can take up maybe another 2 hours easily to get really granular with, and let me just tell you that the things that are existent in this. We can look at how it has set up its persistence, how it sets its persistence in the registry, where it drops its files, what files are encrypted, how it does the encryption. Because what happens is that when it collects your input from your keyboard, generally like almost like a man in the middle kind of thing, or keylogger, it encrypts that content and sends it out to the command and control, to the threat actors in the C2 server, right? So that's for your data. It exfiltrates any other data that it finds to be of value. It also downloads additional backdoors, Trojan, for other applications to take. So once you become a victim of a malicious application or a compromise, you become like, you know, you're open to any kind of attacks. Then it will be able to download even a worm on your machine, and a worm can now propagate laterally or propagate across your network, you know, and they can move laterally, steal additional information that might not be associated with the initial intention of the crime, right? So right away, you know that you will have to clean Zeus. It is recommended that you back up your data and reinstall, right? Or because if you clean Zeus, Zeus could have injected its processes as a logic bomb in a legitimate process and not execute until a certain condition is met. So you might believe that, yeah, I'm clean because my antivirus is good. We have seen here at Mocha where the virus itself or the malware, can be a ransomware, has also infected your antivirus and fooling it into believing that it is clean, right? Easy stuff. That's nothing at all. So the recommendation is to, based on your continuity plan that you have in your different environment, is to back up your data that are non-executable and your files and reinstall, right? Ensure that you have good antivirus, do your own threat hunting on your machine. In a setting, like a corporate setting, ensure that you have your cybersecurity team dedicated with incident response that are switched on and do threat hunting continuously, so that anything anomalous presents itself in your environment, they can know this, right? So Zeus is only one of the many malware that we have looked at. We have looked at ransomware also. Some of them have used a lot of packers and encryption. Some of them we can get into, some of them we can deconstruct. Some of them it's very difficult, right? Because of the level of encryption that they use. So sometimes you have to run it in a virtual environment, look at the indicators of compromise, how they behave, and from that you can get some insights as to how these viruses run, right? Somebody say here, yes, the backup can be compromised. We have seen that. Valid point. We have seen where backups have been compromised because backup is housed on the same network. Once the threat actors are able to move laterally on your network, you can be compromised significantly. We recommend that your backups are offline or elsewhere that will not be under the purview of the actor as his progress is is escapade, you know. So these are things that you have to learn. It's a process. I invite you all to visit the MOCA's webpage and the MOCA, what we call our social media sites, where you can get further insight as to, and I'll just paste it here in the group, guys, for everybody listening here. So you can get further insight as to how some of the recommendations around malicious cybersecurity issues, cybercrime issues. Hold on, guys, don't leave. Let me just get this. So I just paste this in the group, in the chat, so you can have access to it in a while. So, and I urge you, and if there's a need where you want to have talks on how you protect yourself or how you employ technical measures for your investigation, MOCA is always open to this kind of training. So I paste this in the chat, guys. So I hope that you can get it. There are some persons said that they were in the waiting room. I don't know if they missed this, but you know. So I will wrap up here because I don't want to take you through the dark corners of this investigation to the peril of the other speaker, because I know that Warren wants to present. So I will leave you here. If there are any questions, you feel free to ask me in a few minutes before we wrap up before 2. Are there any questions? Moderator, you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Linton. Somebody's asking for a telephone and an email address. I think you can also add that to the chat for that.
Right. Yes, of course. So let me add MOCA's 876. Let me just add mine. So those are my phone numbers. Of course, I'll be giving you, you can get MOCA's phone number also. My email is patrick.linton@moca.gov.jm. No spam, please. All right. So feel free to make contact with MOCA. Of course, you might reach out to me, but we have many other senior forensic and cybersecurity professionals here at MOCA that are willing to assess or assist you all in your endeavors. All right. So if there aren't any other questions, I will take my leave.
Thank you, Mr. Linton. It was indeed an informative session. I know that you really had to cut short a lot of what you did, because from just very basic understanding, we know that these investigations are timely and quite time consuming to get through, and you could have gone deeper. So we appreciate what you have showed us so far, and Mr. Linton has made himself available. If you have any additional questions beyond today to have some meaningful discussions, I would encourage that anybody that's in here with a team that they would like to spruce up the security part of things, reach out to MOCA and Mr. Linton and see how best they can assist you. The JaCIRT is also available. You can also reach out to them for any assistance. So once again,
I made a mistake. I made a mistake with my number, so that I don't know what I was typing by 176 whatever. The correct number is 876-425-5414.
Thank you. Thank you. I asked one of my co-hosts if you could just take down this information so we could disperse it accordingly to anybody that may ask coming from this session. So once again, Detective Inspector Patrick Linton, we appreciate the time you've taken to be here and for sharing this with us. It is really some valuable information that you gave to us here. So thank you.
All right, man, no worries. You're welcome.
DSP Williams, are you on?
Yes, yes.
Great.
I'm here. But I won't be as extensive as Patrick did because you know,
That's fine.
this is Patrick's passion. So you know, I know he will get into deeper things. But this will be more for more on a trend basis rather than digging as
Right.
deep as Patrick did. And I am happy that you know Patrick went before because we don't want to duplicate doing the same things. So he did the technical side of things. We will just do the theory side of things in terms of information.
We
And so,
appreciate it. It's a team.
yeah, one other thing we discussed it you know, and with our bosses as to you know, it's analysis of artifacts and investigative techniques. We don't want to give away our techniques because we understand that it's a general public, you know, so we kind of guard what we do and just try to give general information, right? So it's my turn to present.
It is your turn, DSP Williams. So you have the.
Let me see if I can find my presentation and hope it is not lost. Yeah. Can you see that?
Yes,
Yeah?
we can. Yes, we can.
All right. Right, and I'm very much mindful of the timeline. I was told that I have 30 minutes. Let's see how best I can sprint to the finish line. Right, so as you would have known, I'm a part of the Communication Forensics and Cybercrime Division, which falls under the Counterterrorism and Organized Crime Investigation branch. That's where CTOC is located. Actually, I don't want to give away our location because of what we do. We do not do direct investigation. We provide technical support. But those are our numbers listed below. And once you call those numbers, if someone is becomes a victim or needs some sort of advice, then they can call those numbers and they will assist as best as possible. But we have seen where crime and technology is gradually evolving within the Jamaican digital landscape and globally. And as such, you know, we know it has become really, really disruptive to some organizations. We have seen quite a number of reports, especially with ransomware and scamming and such the like. All of this persons using different tactics and means of socially engineering information, and of course use it maliciously against individuals and companies. But all in all, we have seen where technology has become really beneficiary to most of us who continue to use it. So we know we're in the smart age, and all of these things that are listed here, the servers, the networks, the smartphones, the tablets, all of these things are become now real, implements of digital crimes. As you would have known that in 2015, it was touted and should have been in place that, everything should be fully digital. I don't think we are, using analog stuff as we used to be. So if you do continue to use in that era, it means you'll have problems in getting into the digital space. So the social media platform, all of these things are now used as implements to facilitate, the traditional crimes that we normally see. But there are significant impacts of the crimes based on what we see in Jamaica. The cyber crimes, which are online. So persons who are doing more online transaction, we see now where persons has to do education, health, pay bills online, just about everything and anything online, which means that more information is shared online. And it means that once you share these information online, your debit card, your credit card, your ID, so we see a lot of identity theft, all of these things are in a digital space. It is saved somewhere on a server, somewhere on a computer across the globe. Once it becomes a part either of the World Wide Web or the wider network or a local area network, once nefarious persons or unscrupulous persons get into that space, it means that they have access to your personal information. So when we talk about computer crimes, we make reference to the desktop computers, and of course, mobile crimes you're talking about, or all our wireless devices that we walk around with now, our smartphones, our tablets, all of these things are classified. But all in all, for digital crimes, all it needs is just a network or with a computer, and that would complete all the necessities to facilitate criminal activity. So as I said, ransomware, we have seen quite a number of businesses who has been impacted by ransomware. We are seeing that in our space. BEC, business email compromise, as Linton would have alluded to, in terms of scamming. We see persons getting a lot of attachment, and in those attachments are malwares, and of course it compromise and infect person's system. Of course, we are seeing business processing compromise now because you're in the IoT, the Internet of Things, where just about everything now is interconnected. It's easy that if a perpetrator wants to, do something malicious, doesn't have to attack you at your desktop or your laptop or your smartphone that you have in your hands. He can attack you from the printer, because we know the printer has memory to spool memories. And, once they get somewhere along the line, the production line, of course, they can always change names, change figures. If you do trading with a supplier overseas and you exchange invoices and place orders, it's good for the person to do it at somewhere along the line to make some changes. And of course, maybe you may pay $1 billion to your supplier overseas and you may pay to Warren Williams, but the perpetrator is Warren Williams. He takes off an S at the printer, which the person is not recognizing and realizing that that happens, and the money is siphoned into some account somewhere across the globe, and it gives us the problem to find the perpetrator. So criminals have switched their modalities now. They are realizing that, why do I need law enforcement to chase me down in the street when I can just sit in the comfort of my bedroom somewhere, someplace, right across the globe? Doesn't have to be in Jamaica. Internet has no borders. It's unregulated. I can, commit my offense where I am and give the police some trouble to find me. I connect by an IP address. I know we have tools that can, remove your IP address. Of course, proxy servers, all of these things. So it gives us that kind of exposure to our physical assets, and we have to be aware of this. This from Microtrend may be a little bit outdated in 2017, but the trend continues. The attackers are attacking from different facets of the production line. The Internet of Things, as I said, where everything is now interconnected. In an office, my laptop is connected to a network, to different computers, to a server, to a printer, to the access control, to the camera system. All of these are, IP-based technologies. And of course, it means that once I get into that space, I'm able to look where there are vulnerabilities or weaknesses into the system, launch my attack, whether putting in place some sort of malware, a virus, a Trojan, something of the sort, such that I can compromise your system and bring your system down. So the criminals are looking at new targets. While you may be focused on one and think that because I sit at my desk and do everything, I'm going to see attachment and emails and such the like, we should be aware that the attackers can attack from different vectors and of course compromise your system. We are now seeing and recognizing, and as I said, I don't want to give too much of our strategy and our approach in how we unearth our investigative tactics and how we do our analysis. Right? But of course, it is normal that in everything we do on our digital devices, it leaves a footprint. And of course, that is what we use, and that is good for us as examiners within the digital space, that we can forensically examine these things, because there is a footprint is left somewhere, somehow, right? There's no perfect crime. Person may try to clean up their footprints, but sometimes they leave a back door open, they leave something which is not closed, and we are able as forensic examiners to assist the investigative process. But the trends are continuing and new dimensions, and we are a bit concerned based on what we see. We know that things like NIDS is coming on board, National ID System, where persons volunteer a lot of personal information. We see COVID in the space. We know persons are going to e-medicine, e-education. Everything now is electronically done. We pay bills online. We can take out our birth papers online now. We pay taxes online, all of these things. So it means that data is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it means that the more and more persons input their digital and sensitive information online, it means that we have to be concerned that there is a lot of work on the horizon and possibilities. But of course, we are very, very much aware that persons are being affected by malicious codes and malware because we tend to be on our system, maybe some of us 24/7, businesses, persons, whether for pleasure or for business. We're online, we are sharing information, sensitive information, maybe about the business or about ourselves. All of this data, whether it's text data, video data, audio data, wherever it is stored somewhere. And of course, it gives the criminal the opportunity to access wherever it is stored. Of course, we have tools that will show where attacks are being launched. Thousands of attacks are testing systems for vulnerabilities and weaknesses that are on network globally. I would want to show you that mapping, and you'll be maybe alarmed and surprised to see how many attacks from other countries across the world, testing to see how they can infiltrate your system and of course do their nefarious activity. Of course, as I said, there's a digital footprint and indeed from our investigative perspective, we look for the artifacts which will assist us in preparing the necessary evidence, things of evidentiary value that we can present to the investigator, and of course, that we can present in a court of law, that we can have a successful investigation, and of course, successful presentation and conviction of the perpetrator. So in everything we do, we have to do it by virtue of an international standard. We model what we do. I know Mocha do the same thing. Patrick is our partner. And of course, we bounce things off each other. It's a replicated entity. So we basically kind of do the same work. So we try to follow the standard, knowing that the internet, which has no borders, means that the perpetrator can originate in another jurisdiction. So it means that if we have to give evidence in other countries, then the way how we prepare the evidence or gather the evidence, it must be in a forensically sound approach, must follow the standard operating procedure such that it can stand up in Jamaica. Whatever can stand up in Jamaica can stand up anywhere else across the globe. So we try our best to do what we do along those lines. So examination and analysis, of course, as I said, data is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And of course, later on in the presentation, you will see some projections as to the amount of devices that is available now and in the hands of the general population, and what's projected maybe in a decade from now. So we have to prepare ourselves for what next is coming. But of course, in our environment, we examine certain areas that is consistent, where evidential artifacts are and evidential material, such as log files, system files. It can be hidden anywhere on the system, right? Administrative files or any other files, for that matter, for where the perpetrator can hide, his act or whatever he did, which is probably IP address, or he came in probably the port that he entered, whatever they did, they can hide it somewhere, somehow. And of course, as examiners, based on our training and what we do in-house and the tools we have a cadre person that is highly trained and skilled to know where to look to find this evidence, depending on the event or the situation that has taken place. So of course, evidential process, I think it's the same globally. we first locate where the evidence is. We identify if this is a specific evidence that is required. Of course, we go by a legal warrant. There are warrants that allows us to examine devices for investigative purposes. Once it has been identified, then we want it to be preserved. And we throw this out because we know there are entities who have in-house cybersecurity expert, IT expert, who are maybe trained like ourselves. They want to do their own examination. They may be affected by malware. They use all these, whether free tools or proprietary tools to do their examination. And of course, we want to discourage that if you are impacted, and we know it's about business and there's no law which compels you that if you are impacted, it must be reported. But it helps us as law enforcement that we can make recommendation or adjustment to the cybercrime legislation. If you don't say it, then it means that the wider Jamaica can be impacted or affected negatively. You as a citizen, I as a citizen, because it did not come to light. We do not know what is happening in the space. So we're not able to prepare ourselves or deal with whatever, new offenses that we're seeing unveiling. So we encourage you, if you're going to do your personal investigation, we don't mind. We work with IT persons who will assist the investigative process. Once you follow the international standard procedure, we're fine with that. And sometimes we're happy because you'll do some of the work for us. But what we don't want you to do is to clean up the footprint. There is an encrypted file. You may try to decrypt it. You will tamper with the evidence. And then it can't stand up in court because you would have done your work on it. And then if you mess around with it and didn't preserve it for law enforcement to do their analysis and their examination, then it can't stand up. You'll have a good case and it can't stand up in court. So we discourage you not to delete, not to alter or correct anything. Once you want the police to be involved with the investigation, just dump whatever evidence you have, and of course do it in a forensically sound way, such that we can get a copy of it and look at the material that you have gathered. So after the preservation, it comes in-house to us. We do the necessary examination with the relevant tools that we have. Persons will do the analysis. A lot of these analyses are automated because we know data is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and to sit and find all of these evidence humanly at this point in time, we could say it is impossible because it could take you months, years, right? Sometimes right now we have cases right up to our neck. If we stop taking persons who are taking requests for our assistance in investigation, if we stop taking in requests today, we can't complete what we have until the next 5 years. It will take us 5 years to complete what we have, because based on trends, I may not have empirical evidence, but based on trends, I could probably safely say 99.9% of every crime now has a digital element to it. What does that mean? Persons are using their digital device to facilitate non-traditional and traditional crimes. It's just CFCD and MOCA. As you know, MOCA have a different remit from CFCD. And of course, it comes on, it piles on, and I mean, our human resource and is just to a certain limit, and we can do so much and no more. So once they examine and analyze, they prepare the evidence that is found, prepare it in a format that it can be presented in a court of law, such that the judge can understand, the prosecution can understand, or the defense attorney can understand, and that's the standard way of doing things. Right, so we know we're moving gradually into a 5th generation of the evolution of technology. Jamaica, the service providers will tell you that they have 4th generation technology now, but what do you care as a user? You only want to know you get on the internet, you get to pay your bills, you do your shopping on Amazon, it comes to you. You don't care what is the technology. You just want to ensure that you get chat on WhatsApp, send your video, all of this. But from technical perspective, it means something to us, and it means that as examiners, and practitioners, It means that, we have to have different approaches to how we, gather these evidence and prepare it to present it in a court of law. So there's an evolution so rapid that, we don't want to say we can't keep up, but we have to try to be there as best as possible, right? We see all kind of attacks on different systems, personal systems, business systems. So we're saying, as technology increases, we're seeing an increase in digital crimes. Nothing to be alarmed about, but that's just the reality, because the normal person now would have probably a minimum of 2 phones. He has a tablet, he has a laptop, he has a desktop, he has a smartwatch, right? He has smart TV, and all of these things are interconnected, because when he comes to work or he travels, he uses smartphone to turn on his camera. Now we have smart refrigerator to interrogate his refrigerator. So all of these things, which runs a program and stores data, can store and has footprint of illegal activity, unauthorized access to a system, compromise the system. It means that, as I said, we are at a BPC, business process compromise. The compromise can be anywhere along the line, and the evidence can be collected somewhere along the line. It means that they were getting into more challenging times. But one research has shown that there exists now 1 billion PCs, and of course 2 billion mobile devices, 3 billion in total. And it's estimated that in the next decade, there will be 50 billion pieces of devices, with the world with about 7 billion people now. But that is saying to me, in another decade, if everyone should have a piece of device, they will have at least 7 pieces of device. And that's not impossible, because we start having that already. We have smartphones, smart TV, computer, laptop, whatever, you name it. So we're getting there. So it means that data is getting bigger and bigger, and persons have different modalities and different resources that they can commit offense. It means that the evidence can lie anywhere and everywhere. Maybe, just maybe, I'm foreseeing that in the future. I'm saying that maybe we need to have a warehouse as our exhibit room. But when we go to a crime scene or an offender, we have to maybe creep up everything that he has in his house, because he may store it on his smart TV. The evidence may be on his smartwatch, his smart refrigerator, you name it. It may be somewhere, he may hide it somewhere, or he may hide it offsite on a server somewhere across the globe or in the cloud. All of these things are possibilities, which means as from where we sit, we very much be aware of that. Right, so potential attacks, as we said, this is just a scenario to show you about the business process compromise. You see a customer's database there. They process their invoice through their printer. What the person does based on the invoice there, the attacker modifies the check before it gets to the printer, changes it, and of course, the money that is being paid is siphoned off to a different account. It changes that as your Linton say part of the forensic examination. They may change a 1 to an I. They may change something, letters or something. So look for all these things in doing forensic examination to get evidence. My Trend Micro is saying in 2017, they are seeing up to the persons that are mainly attacked within organization is the CEO. Why? Because the CEO pays less attention to technology. He spends the least amount of money on technology. That doesn't mean much to them. But we want to advise CEOs now that some of their budget must include cybersecurity, a reasonable chunk, because most of your operation is now digital function. Most of our utilities are light or water or ports of entry, you name it. It's all about technology. But CEO seems to be the least educated of the lot because they pay least attention. So they are the ones that are mainly attacked, followed by president, managers, and of course, goes down the line, we see other persons. So users, as we know, is always the weakest link. and of course. So from where we sit as law enforcement, we have to sort of, prepare ourselves to have a response, because seeing that things are going to, elevate more in terms of the data getting bigger and bigger. We have more devices. It means that there's going to be more digital footprints. We have to search and find the evidence somewhere, somehow. We have to kind of craft a strategy and prepare ourselves how to deal with this, evolution and expansion and explosion of technology. So what I advise for all those who are listening, spread the word. We must have a multidimensional approach ourselves as law enforcement, MOCA, all of us, because the more minds that comes together, once we have this cohesive approach, right, then it means that we can, unfold evidence and have a quicker solution. It so happened that Jamaica is a part of the 24/7 network with 50 odd other countries globally. So it means that there's point of contacts in each country, cut out the red tape. So if an IP address is pointing to another jurisdiction, I don't have to go through this, that, Tom, Dick, and Harry to get the IP address to get the subscriber information. I am the point person for Jamaica. So, if there are offenses and there are offenders that an IP address points somewhere outside of Jamaica, once they are signatory to the 24/7 network, then we can provide quick assistance by communicating to our communication service provider. The tech industry, and I'd want to have all industries who use technology as IT personnel and experts, cybersecurity persons. My name and number will come at the end. So let us share, let us work together, because it means that we'll build a stronger digital environment for Jamaica. Protects you, protect me, protect the general citizenry of the country. And who knows, there may be victims outside of our country that we also need to assess. So the good news is, unlike the physical world, as I said before, it leaves a digital footprint. And of course, from where we sit, it can be a hybrid approach. As I said, based on the presentation, I don't want to give away too much. But of course, we craft different methodologies to how to approach these investigations so that we can have a multidimensional approach to solve these problems. So we kind of have a proactive approach in terms of cybersecurity, how to prevent it, because we try to predict what may happen. So we recommend, as Linton was alluding to, in terms of make sure your firewall is up and running. Maybe you have the latest virus protection. And when you get updates where there are vulnerable operating system, don't say, hey, listen, I can't bother. That's going to take too long. Spend some time and do it, because it means that the developers of these applications and of course, these resources, they have found weaknesses in the system and they want to send a fix. So we spend time to do the fix. So protect the tech and be able to respond if there should be a crisis or some sort of event. So in closing, we have the duty to educate, because the less we'll have to investigate. We encourage you to monitor your networks, browse with caution, don't click on everything. Linton show tools like Wiz. If you want to find IP address, there are many free tools that are out there. There are proprietary tools that are out there. But you have to browse with caution, because with people like us who have certain skill set and training, we can go into certain areas that maybe some persons can't go. But we say be careful, because you never know, right? So don't click on everything. We have skill sets that can create website. Maybe create website looking like a certain financial institution. When you click on it and you put your debit and your credit card information, your username and password, we capture that. That's what the perpetrators who have similar training or even better will do. So we ask you to browse with caution. You have a responsibility to protect your property, the hardware, the software, right? Your general facility. And of course, we encourage you to, institute effective cybersecurity policy. You need to hold persons responsible, especially from users, such that if there is an event, and to protect the general environment, so person know what you're about, what they should do. So some do's and don'ts. We encourage password protection of everything. Make it long, make it strong. Alphanumeric, uppercase, lowercase, special characters. not cat, rat, mat, your mother name, your father name. No. What we find out is that users tend to use the same password for everything. So their bank account have the same password, to get on their phone have the same password, to get on anything they have, they use the same password because they can't be bothered with different password. Well, you're just setting up yourself for some problem. Because when I get into one system, the perpetrator will get into all your systems. So it makes sense that you juggle the password. And I encourage you, don't go to a website that issues password. One of them was breached the other day. Be careful. Sanitizing digital devices. Of course, we know we talk about sanitizing. What do we mean? We have had situation and we have had many stories. Probably if I was face to face with you at the end of the presentation, I'll give you a brand new, maybe 128 gigabyte thumb drive or external hard drive. I'll give it to you as a gift. I can anticipate the next thing you're going to do. It's a long time I need such a big hard drive or a 2 terabyte. You take it home or you take it to your office and you plug it into the system. That's a no-no because malware can be on the system. You don't know any malicious code. So we encourage you, or you may buy new systems and think it's brand new, but there are residual data that is on it that you can't see with the naked eye. Looks clean, you say you format it and everything and it's okay, but no. Only if you take it into a forensic environment, you'll realize that residual files were there before, could be a malicious code. That is why we encourage you to sanitize. Get an expert to wipe it, wipe it, wipe it. Like in the US, they wipe it 7 times. As a matter of fact, they'll damage computers. They don't give it away. They damage the hard drive because if people like we find it, we can, reveal all the data that was on it before. So we encourage that. Enable firewalls, as we say, ensure wireless routers don't just plug and play because we don't want person to get into your free Wi-Fi. And that's another topic for discussion with the government because we can get into the free Wi-Fi space. We can do a lot of malicious things, but likewise criminals, they just want to get into that space where persons are and do what they can do. So we discourage Bluetooth to be left on. It's easy to pair with your system. If there is an open port, if there are some weaknesses on your system, your smart device, once we pair with it, it gives us access to all the information that is on your devices. Be careful of, cookies and sites that you don't know. We encourage persons not to volunteer too much personal information online. Only share what is enough and enough. And we have a term which says trust but verify. So you get a scam, they send you an email, we're updating our password and username from your financial institution. Okay, I trust my bank, but guess what? I'm going to call them to verify that they do send that. Because it's so often they send scamming emails and you volunteer this information and by the time you know, you get caught. Be careful of these phishing and of course social engineering. Let no person, because information about every institution and company know most are online. It's available because everybody wants to get into the digital space, especially now in COVID-19. So I can just study your institution, know your CEOs, know your structure, and I can just make calls or pretend like I am a part of the business. I know what is happening, use names, use things that you do, and by the time you know it, information is volunteered and you become a victim. So we encourage all the time that cybersecurity is a partnership, business and government, citizen, the judiciary system, prosecution, police. All of us working together can provide Jamaica with a safer digital space. So as I said, the tagline is the more we educate, the less we will have to investigate. We have a lot of work, so we take pleasure in coming on forums like these. We encourage persons to observe, talk about cybersecurity policies, let them get into the habit. As professionals, observe, investigate. When in doubt, check it out. And of course, we wanted to focus on what you're doing because you may be chatting away, doing all kinds of things, opening all kinds of web pages, all kind of things. By the time you know it, you click an infected website or an infected attachment, you infect your system and the whole company goes down. So we have to be careful of what we're doing now. Right. So that was not meant to be, but that's my close. That's my name, my email, and contact number. If you need to get in touch with me for any reason, then feel free to do so. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present to this audience. It is my greatest pleasure. Are there any questions? Anybody still there? Everybody gone to sleep?
I am here.
Still here, man. Still here.
I was wondering if I bored people that they just gone to sleep.
So a part of your investigation, you encouraged persons to report any suspected cases that they may have.
Right.
What is the trend where increased or decreased reporting of these things occur? Because I do understand that some persons might be embarrassed to say, well, I have been a victim of this, or they probably don't even know. So what is the trend where that is concerned? Are you seeing an increase or a decrease in the reporting?
Yes, the reporting has increased. But as I said, CTOC, if CTOC is the entity, or I mean, if you're a victim in Montego Bay, we don't expect you to come all the way in Kingston to CTOC. So you go to the nearest police station and report. We strongly believe there are gross underreporting, but for persons who has reported, sometimes the local police may not have the skill set of how to approach the investigation. So we too have our job cut out to educate our internal customers. But indeed, it's gradually growing as I'm saying. More persons are online, more persons have been impacted. And of course, we just have to develop strategies of how to assist as best as we can. I see the question here, if the backlog is 5 years out, then what do we now, how do we get escalated? Well, we do have a priority system, and the priority system, and Jamaica is not the only digital lab has backlog. I'm sure if you talk to Patrick, he'll tell you the same thing. But some will have it more than some. We have a different remit from MOCA. We are the Jamaica Constabulary. So every and any entity that is impacted comes to us. So anywhere across the globe, digital labs, the law enforcement labs, they have a huge backlog. It's not only Jamaica, it's a challenge globally. As I said, as the technology evolves and increases, that is going to happen. And we're going to see more and more crimes. Persons are utilizing these platforms and these kind of medium to commit their traditional crimes and new crimes. Until we see them, then we know that, you know, they are involved in it. But as I said, you know, we strongly believe based on trend that a great percentage, the greater percentage of crime in Jamaica is facilitated by digital devices. That's just the reality. We just have to see how best we can deal with it. Okay.
So you made mention of the 24/7 network that Jamaica is fortunate to be a part of. Is that a subset of, is that network a subset of Interpol?
Let me say, no, this is monitored and managed by DOJ, Department of Justice. So it's from the US. Interpol is separate, but we are also a part of Interpol. But the 24/7 include countries right across the globe, to include European countries. So they sort of overlap. It's just another, you know, way and means of, you know, providing investigative support. And we become part of these communities because, as you know, it can be difficult for you to investigate in a case and the red tape you'll have to go through, you know, to get that sort of assistance. So it's quite critical, and we're happy that we're a part of it, because we have had reports where we have to reach out to maybe Facebook or WhatsApp, that the server is in the US, and we need to ask them to preserve certain data or certain evidential material until we go through the mutual legal assistance treaty, and they would proceed from there. But it has been working, maybe not as quickly as persons would have liked it to be, but we have to understand the real world we live, where we have resources that is not exhaustive, but we have to work with what we have. We can't complain, we just have to deal with what we have, but that's the reality.
And you also mentioned of persons or IT persons that they ensure that they do they begin their investigations in line with international forensic standards. Now, where can we go to ascertain these standards or become more knowledgeable of these standards, so that if we need to call in your guys, we have not started something contrary to what is required and it makes your work hard or even possibly impossible?
Interpol. Once you go on to Interpol's international website, yeah, they'll provide that support for you.
Okay, and is there a regional version of the 24/7 network?
No, it's so involved. I know Jamaica is a part of it. I'll have to bring up the list that I have. We have maybe a few Caribbean countries. I know Trinidad is a part of it, Barbados, but they're just point persons with their contact numbers and information. So if something happens throughout the night or any hour of the day, they'll call that person direct, and that person will now liaison with whichever local entity they need to provide a liaison. We do monitor, we do have tools that do monitoring of child pornography. So persons are involved in that, so we have that direct link also. But yes, as for our Caribbean neighbors, a few of them are part of the network, but not all of them.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Just to open out, is there any questions from our listening guests?
Oh, yes, I do have a question. Thank you.
Go ahead, Sir Hastings.
Okay, DSP Williams.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you mentioned the issue of sanitizing devices, even if they are new, At our organization, being part of, the public sector, we tend to acquire new devices sometimes, and sometimes have to work with devices brought in by staff. You said that they should be scrubbed several times. What do you mean? Do you mean that they should be formatted over and over again up to 7 times to ensure there's a certain level of security?
The formatting is preparing it for partition with a file system.
Yeah.
As against wiping, it removes the ones and the zeros and the residual data that was there before. So you'll have to acquire a different wiping tool or take it to any IT shop that can do that kind of operation to ensure that, other than getting your new brand device, now that you hear this, it can have a malware on it and I don't know, have it properly scrubbed and wiped before start formatting and use, then that should be part of your SOP and your cybersecurity policy, so that a person does not get their children or buy a thumb drive in the bookstore and they come and they plug it into the company system, and by the next time they get on, they see a blue screen, you have just been hacked, you have to be careful, or the entire network goes down. So it has to be part of your cybersecurity policy that you have it wiped by our internal IT persons. They get the necessary tools that can do the wiping before they do the formatting.
Okay, thank you very much. That is helpful.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, Sir Hastings. Any other questions? Okay, judging by the silence, by both the chat and the audio, I suspect everyone was duly satisfied with the presentation that you gave, DSP Williams. I just want to say thank you for taking the time out to be here. Thank you for taking the time out to give this presentation. We know that sometimes persons may think they know something, but then when you hear these presentations, you are quickly reminded of some of your shortcomings that we may be doing on a daily basis. And then, as is known, everything is now interconnected. So even though we may have an infected laptop, once you take it somewhere else, everything else gets affected by that. So we want to say thank you, DSP Williams, to Detective Inspector Linton. We also want to say thank you for that presentation also, and to our listening guests, both from our live stream and here on our Zoom platform. We say thank you for joining us. Join us again tomorrow, same time. And we appreciate the time that you've taken out to be here with us. Thanks one and all. Have yourselves a wonderful day. Goodbye.
Okay, goodbye. Same to you.